We've got some
Hey,
fresh new
I'm
young
Luis.
talent
And
doing some
I'm
things that I know
Luis.
you haven't
And you're
heard
listening to the
before.
Content is Profit podcast.
Hey. I forgot we had that little nice animation.
Hey,
in there.
that was done like 5 years ago, just saying.
I know that was done a long time ago. And we probably used it like
Five times.
Yeah, like 5 times.
You say that every time we use it. We're like, I forgot we have that. But anyways,
Yeah.
Welcome back. Happy Monday, everybody, to Content is Profit live edition. FONZI, good weekend. We won. We're now going to the finals on Sunday in soccer. For those
Yeah.
listening, we do play soccer once in a while.
It's been active last couple of weekends.
Yes.
Honestly, this was like the first weekend that we didn't have like external plans, but there's a lot of soccer. Every single muscle hurts, but it was worth it.
A lot of family too.
Yeah, it's been a while since we played a final, so let's go.
Let's go. Okay. Anyway, so if you want to find out more on the soccer, just send us a DM.
Yeah, I hope they stream it. I'm gonna see if they can put a stream on for the game, and then we'll just drop it in here. See,
Content is Profit
see-
live soccer edition.
yeah, see if somebody tunes it.
I know. Cool. All right. We have a special guest today. FONZI has been collaborating with this person a couple times already and is
Yep.
a ton of value. You can go to our Facebook group, Content is Profit, and you'll find some of the videos there. Lots of value. And then they were like, you know what? We need to bring the A game with Luis in the pod. And that's why we're here. I was like, they leveled up. They went to pro level. And that's why we're here talking to me. Just saying. FONZI's not
That
listening.
is true.
'cause-
No, I heard you, but I wanna let you have your moment. That's fine too.
Oh, well, thank you, mister. All right, I think we're ready. You good?
Let's do it.
Why are you typing in your computer?
I'm just typing stuff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
All right, here we go.
We've got some
Hey,
fresh
I'm
new
Luis.
young
And this
talent
is
doing
Luis.
some
And
things
welcome
that
to
I
the
know you
Content is
haven't
Profit
heard before.
podcast.
In here, you're gonna get the insights, accountability, and drive to create consistently and increase revenue.
You'll hear from top entrepreneurs, creators, and anything and everything you need to know about content. All this while having a good time.
The goal of this podcast is simple: entertain, educate, and turn your content into profit. Let's go.
That is right, guys. If you are enjoying this show, go ahead and follow your favorite podcasting platform. And now on YouTube, if you want to see our faces, let's go. We're all caught up. We're all caught up there. So super excited. And on social media at BIZBROS. Go.
That is right. And if today's guest help you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review.
That's right. I hope you're ready to learn more about podcast collaborations and how it can help your business.
That is right. Today's guest is a top 5% podcasters. I think that it's higher than 5%, honestly, and one of the best when it comes to building partnerships that last.
He's the co-founder of the Podcast Launch Agency and the Podcast Launch Accelerator, which is meant to get you from zero to hero in the podcasting world.
I made that up, but I think, after talking to him multiple times, I can tell that he's going
Yes.
to take you from zero to hero. So you better stay tuned in today, guys. Please welcome the one and only Chris Counter. What's up, Chris?
Let's act a bit silly.
Let's go. Hey, I love the dancing. I love the dance moves. We're all about it, We should start sending some debriefs before the podcast. Like, hey, look, there's gonna be music. There might be some dancing included. So
no. I don't agree with that because then there's no surprise excitement.
surprise element. That's right.
I know,
that's
Chris.
right.
I know we throw you under the bus. We're like the party time. Let's go, baby. I was watching a show last night, actually, or a movie, and it's like this girl is dating this one guy, and the girl's like really good at karaoke, and then signs up the guy, surprise, to be like, "Hey, you go on stage now," and the guy's like, "Please don't do this. Please don't do this." And then, it was just a funny scene. That's exactly what will happen to me. So that's exactly what we do to our guests. We torture them.
That cool story. Chris, welcome, man. How you doing today?
Thank you very much. What a great introduction, and thanks for doing this on a Monday at the start of the week. What a great high.
Yeah.
Great way to start.
Lots of
Thank you.
caffeine, music, dancing. There's no other way to start in the week,
FONZI's 2 double shots in, and Chris, before we started the interview, she shows the coffee mug and it's like, I'm on water. I'm like, that's probably healthier, way healthier.
Yeah. Trying to catch up
I
now with
mean-
the H2O.
Yeah.
Stay hydrated.
That's right.
That's right, especially if you're in front of the
I
mic.
drank coffee all weekend.
There we go. Now, Chris, for those that don't know you, for those that might have missed the few lives that we had last week, right? Where we talk a little bit about what you're building in the podcast launch agency and the accelerator. Why don't you share a little bit about yourself? How did you get into podcasting at all?
Oh my goodness. So I started March 2021 with little to no confidence and just decided to go all in and interview 52 experts in the least amount of time. So I did it in 4 months' time.
Nice.
And that just took off. I got hired by AppSumo. That opened huge doors. And yeah, my confidence blew up. I'm still not so confident on camera, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. So,
Chris, I'm just saying, wait,
that's why I'm on. That's why I'm on Content is Profit podcast.
Chris, with that accent, you're confident. Yeah, you can just assume that it is high. It's high. Like I'd rather have a British accent than a Hispanic accent. Just gonna put that out there.
It's from March 2021 to now. It's definitely
Okay.
up there, and that's because of some courses I've taken, and then just having more conversations with confident people. It helps.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I just did a quick math here. Did it in my head, did it in the computer and the calculator. But I divided 52 by 16 weeks, which is about 4 months. You did about 3.2 interviews per day, right? Not per day, sorry, per week. Wow.
Come on, public math, Fonzie.
3.2 interviews per week, which is kind of like about what we do here at Content is Profit, right? 3 episodes. And honestly, that velocity is one of the reasons that we attribute the success that Content is Profit has had, just because, just like you mentioned right now, volume, you get more practice, you probably get more feedback, and then it allows you to get better and better and better. Now, you say you started podcasting, that led to a role with AppSumo, which I'm sure it was great, right? And then you evolved beyond AppSumo into what? What was next after AppSumo? Why did you decide to stick with it, do it, kind of like launch your own agency, dive deeper into it and help other people?
I mean, I started working at AppSumo November 2021, so a couple months after launching the podcast, because, well, it was just in conversation, like you do after you've had an interview with a guest. You follow up with them when you ask them other questions, and those questions led to me getting hired. But they also sponsored the podcast, which was amazing. Because I was still interviewing for my podcast while working at AppSumo, and because AppSumo promotes internally and externally for you to start a side hustle, to start a business, I started selling on AppSumo. People were buying my podcast products. I'm not going to mention them. I'm not going to promote myself too much. But, I sell a couple of products on AppSumo. That took off. Then there's a couple of people that I interacted with on a day-to-day, their agency owners, their marketers. They kind of pitched me to work with them or to partner with them in their own agency, but I was never really a fan of the direction I wanted to stay in the podcasting industry, because it had given me so much already. And a friend, Phil, the podcast mogul, my co-founder, said, why don't we just launch a podcast agency, but do the one-stop shop and do the talent management, do the editing, but collaborate with people that have supported us, that have been experts on my podcast. My podcast is talking with experts, so let's collaborate with all the experts.
Yeah,
that's
100%.
Amazing. One of the big points that we've talked about that I think has been the biggest win for us has been generating opportunities from the podcast, right? And that can look in many. That can have many outcomes, right? That could be like a client, that could be a collaboration, that could be a referral, that could be just a cool relationship, right? At the end of the day. So obviously for you, it brought you those opportunities. Is that something that you encounter like along the way? Like how was that process for you? For us, like, and I'll give a little background, right? It's we did 20 episodes on our own, right? And we quickly ran out of things to say. So we either had to learn more, we had to do more research, right? And we're like, well, why don't we just bring like first, our friends in the industry, the people that we're working on right now, and then also our mentors, like our coaches or things. And then from there, it kind of spun up. But immediately after, we got an opportunity to be like, they asked us a question, be like, what do you guys do? Like, what is the thing that you guys are working on right now? And it gave us an opportunity to explain what we did and show a demo. And then our first client on that side came out of that, right? And we're like, wow, this is a super cool way to transition. It happened very naturally. The trust was there, right? We're not pitching. It was like, wow, this is an opportunity to do something else. And from there, we were able to be on stages, online stages, like a bunch of other things. For you, how was that? Like when you started the show, right? Was that the initial intent, or no? I see you shaking your head.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, I started the podcast and there was a couple of people that were asking, so what do you offer? And at the time, I did not have a offer in place. I was there to learn from the experts that did have an offer in place and try and figure out, what could I do differently, or how could I put something together? So what I was selling on AppSumo was my strategy to get my podcast live. So my 52 episode is the podcast launch strategy. That's what it's called. And the people that had bought that, I brought them into my private community and I wanted to serve them more. And because my role at AppSumo was partner success or customer success, making those selling on AppSumo make more money on AppSumo. That was my main priority.
Yeah.
So then I thought, well, all my customers that are coming from the podcast launch strategy product, let's try and serve them better and get their podcast live. So I ran a giveaway with King Sumo, one of their products on AppSumo. Got some people through that, and then started launching products and getting some early testimonials. And then I used those to get more paid clients.
Amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, I know. I think is super interesting, and I'm curious to know that you always had the mindset on collaboration, right? Have you always lived your life on kind of like, let's lean on to others, help each other out? Or again, like, did you just stumble upon this and then you're like, oh, wow, like this can actually benefit a lot of people. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I think because I was already interacting with experts and one of the questions evolved. They're not set questions. They're a bit like the Content is Profit podcast is the curiosity base. Yeah. So I was asking, how do you generate revenue for your business?
Yeah.
And some experts would say that they did it with joint ventures, or they did it just through word of mouth or referrals or affiliate. And I thought, let's build my affiliate commissions, and then let's do this and let's test a couple of things. And then I realized that there's more power in two minds working together or three minds working together than there is one, and there's different perspectives. Yeah. I'm a specific person. I like lists and details, where Phil is the idea strategy guy, or we've got somebody else that does the branding and somebody else does the editing. And I like that collaboration. Absolutely. My past is I used to be a chef. So there's a lot of teamwork, lots of collaboration under high amounts of pressure and just get it done. So there's always been collaboration in my blood, but not as extreme as it is right now. It's like we can pull from different legs and create some amazing things.
Absolutely. I love it. And I love that element of that you kind of like brought from the, I guess, the cooking world, right? Being a chef. What's your favorite meal? What's your best food that you make? Yeah, I'm here prepping for lunch, so I need to get hungry.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, I don't cook that often anymore, believe it or not. But I think I can definitely put up some really nice fresh pasta.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And
nice. I was a pastry chef.
Nice. You got me a pasta.
You got me a pasta. We love. We I mean, as football players, right? As soccer players, we grew up eating tons and tons of pasta. And honestly, like lately, not too long ago, I started taking some classes on how to make pasta from scratch, and it's a lot of fun. But let's get back to collaboration. Tanya alert in here.
We can definitely tell Fonzie's hungry. It's right before lunch.
I'm starving now. But Chris, I'm curious, the person listening right now is like, okay, cool. This collaboration aspect is awesome, but is it going to work out for me, right? For what type of people have you seen that collaboration work best for?
Ooh, work best for? Oh my goodness. Well, there's some for more established podcasters that have been in the game for a while. They already want to do collaboration because they know that's one of the best ways to grow the podcast. What I found is lots of smaller brands, startups in particular, we work with to do different collaborations. They want to because they want the exposure, they want the brand awareness, they want to increase their usership. So working with startups has been really easy to do some collaborations with. I can give them my audience and I can give them my guest audience, and we can help them with the exposure we can get them, or the different contacts we have. We can lean on our contacts to help them get that brand awareness. So startups have been great to do collaboration with.
Yeah. Chris, I'm curious, right? Like we started collaborate, right? For us initially was let's bring as many people as possible so we can start connecting, right? But as you are frequent and consistent with your content, you're gonna develop an audience, people that are listening, that are in tuning with your message, right? That trust you, right? That trust is so important, right? How then you start filtering, like, who are you actually bringing to your show, right? And up to recently when we joined Hotspot, we were like, wow, maybe this is a new thing that we have to consider, right? Because the show is growing, there's more people listening, there's more people paying attention. It's not just about, the back end opportunity initially, right? But now are we actually providing value? Are we entertaining people? Are we bringing something to the table content wise that is worth for them to listen? So it's very enticing just having every single message out there, every single like DM, inviting every single person into the platform. But now there has to be a filter, right? Like, so how do you guys tackle that? Like, who's the right person for your platform? Do you guys have a process around that? And I know a lot of people having interviews. That's the balance, right? Between the value that I can provide as a podcast. That's why we've done a lot of solo episodes lately, because people seem to respond to us just interacting with each other, right? But then we're like, okay, when we bring an interview, how do we measure that? And that's something that we're actively looking. So how do you guys manage, or what are some recommendations that you can share with the audience when it comes to that?
Yeah. So it's, I don't consider myself a podcaster just right now because I'm not actively producing content. My focus is helping those that want to launch their podcast.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to give lots of advice on that because I'm not, and I feel guilty to be on a podcast interviewing podcasters when I'm on pause at the moment.
I'll release a little bit. I'll release a little bit of the I guess pressure on that end. I mean, you did interview 52 experts, right? So there has to be some process of like, hey, this is a person that could bring a ton of value, not only to me, but like people that might listen to this podcast in the future, right? So in a sense, you did create like this amazing platform, right? So that I guess my question was aiming on that side, maybe not on the day-to-day type of deal. Like,
yeah, of course. So it all goes back to the fundamentals of doing research on your guests. There's a couple of people that said I made them feel like $1 million or $2 million, and that's just because I invested 10 plus hours pre-interview, learning about them, listening to their content, reading their content, finding out what others might not have found out about them when they interviewed them, and referring back to episodes that they'd been on and trying to uncover more. Because if they're experts, they can give expert advice. I wanted to be able to get, like you are, actionable tips that my listeners could take and take action on. So I was focusing on 3 actionable tips per episode, and if the guests wanted to share more, they could. But I did a lot of upfront research. Probably the same as you. We had somebody fill out the onboarding form, but a little bit of back and forth via email, but always a pre qualification or pretty cool conversation for 15-20 minutes, get to know them, and then decide from there if they're going to go to the interview. And most of the time they would go to the interview because I would do a ton of research. I would be itching to talk to them, and then because I gave them a great experience, they come back for more.
Yeah, absolutely. It does sound like building rapport, like you just mentioned, right? It's a huge step into kind of like advancing these collaborations and finding more opportunities, right? And I feel that's kind of like how we feel as well. We do have a previous call with you. Obviously, we did like lives and everything else, right? But again, it's just developing that rapport, that goodwill with the other person. At the end of the day, in their eyes, the values that you're sharing their platform with them as well, so they get to leverage your audience. And I think that's a key point, because if you're looking for collaborations, whether it is in your platform or somebody else's platform, you're leveraging those audiences to get more exposure. But beyond audience building, there are other benefits, right? Like my brother mentioned at the beginning, it could be a partnership, right? It could be that a person might become our client. So I'm curious on how do you transition the conversation into, hey, this is a podcast interview, to, hey, let's explore opportunities to collaborate together, right? Do you have some sort of pre-framing in those 15-minute calls or before the podcast, or do you just do it after the podcast episode is done in your follow-up process? I'm curious, because people might be thinking, well,
Yeah.
okay, you're like, we did a podcast interview and it's all amazing, but I have no idea how to transition this now into a different type of conversation.
Or the classic, like, I don't want to sound salesy, like, I don't want to
Exactly.
push this, like, I don't want to break the relationship, right? I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of the fear that comes to that, like, next step after the relationship is started to build.
Yeah, I think collaboration is not something you do much preparation. Well, in the way it's worked for me is I've delivered a great interview and we've had a great conversation, and I don't expect anything else in return. But I don't know what it is people want to work with me. Maybe that's because I created a really great experience, or because I'm curious and I want to. I'd learn as much as I possibly can about the guest, and I ask them, "How can I help? Is there anything I can do?" Sharing their content, liking their content, referring them guests.
Yeah.
Do you want to be on other podcasts? Great, I know this one, this one, this one. What kind of projects are you working? Because I'm interested in what other people are doing. What other projects are you doing? Do you need help with that? And when they say yes, then you talk, oh, well, if I bring you this, then I can get this. And more like an affiliate
Absolutely.
partnership first, and then it's actually, we want to do something together. And then that's when the conversation starts. So do like 90% for them. Show that you're interested and eager and want to learn, and especially if you're at the beginning and you don't know, you ask the experts, you get inside their courses, you invest in their courses, you just show, you become their best case study. Then you can do some collaborations together.
You mentioned this a couple of times, and I wrote it down here. It's like great experience, right? And a great interview. And you know, we've been in some podcasts as guests, or, you know, people come to us and we do get a comment where, like, it's different, right? I had a good time, XYZ, right? So, and for us, from the very beginning, we're like, how can we make this very different? Part of the intro is part of that element, right? It's like, wow, like, this is so different than any other show that I've been on. We get that comment very often, right? And we're like, every single day, we're like, hey, how can we make it better, 1% better for the guests, so it's easy for them, it's fun, it's enjoyable, right? We're bringing them into our house and we want them to feel really good, right? And that looks a certain way to us and to our guests. So what would you describe as a great experience on your side? Because it's not just the right questions, right? There's other elements involved, right? Is the back end of the show, is it easy for them to join the call? Is it, you know, is there an email coming through? Is there a reminder? Like, there's all these operational things, right, that could add or subtract from that experience. So I'm very curious, like, for you, you know, focusing maybe on like the least friction for people that are starting, that might be intimidated a little bit to like bring that expert into their own platform. What are some things that they can look into to provide that great experience?
Your listeners are gonna think, how can he create a better experience than anybody else? And you know, it's just what you said, is notifying them. But and a lot of the times people have said, oh, you did up your upfront research, you asked the right questions, you made me feel comfortable, and you positioned me as the expert. I know it's different depending on who your guests
Yeah.
are, but for me, it worked out well. And maybe I was just a one. It was just successful for me because I wanted to interview experts. So all the guests that I had coming on the podcast, I did not elevated their ego too much. They already knew they were experts, but I just said, I'm looking for experts to join this podcast talking about this subject. You're an expert. I think you're the expert in SEO and ... So I think maybe I was just lucky that my first podcast was great, but the experience is just
Yeah.
being kind. I think
Yeah.
you've got to be kind. You've got to be flexible to be a podcaster.
Yeah.
It's a tricky question.
I
But-
think you're doing the right things.
Yeah, this actually got me thinking too, right? And something that I'm seeing here is like maybe that great experience is a reflection of your own personality, right? Like a great experience, we can have the same guest, and they can have great experience with each, and they both be different great experiences, right? So like you mentioned, like you're kind, and I told my brother, I'm like, bro, he's super chill, he has this awesome vibe, right? And I know because people has told us right now to like pat our own back, but that we have a cool vibe, but we're more on the high energy side of things, right? So a lot of people, when they come there, like, oh man, like what a cool experience, I had so much fun. And they use a lot of the word fun, right? And guess what? A lot of the people that we resonate, that are able to move relationships forward, is people that also resonate with that energy as well. And I'm sure, I mean, I cannot say for a fact, you're gonna have to confirm this or not, but probably a lot of people that you move partnerships and relationships forward with had your same vibe too, right? Like maybe they related a lot with your personality and whatnot. What you did throughout the process was give them multiple times the option to see that personality, right? Whether that was in that 15-minute call, follow-up emails, right? During the show, they were like, oh man, this guy is disciplined, I love what he does. And then at the end, when you, however you do it, transition that conversation into more of a sales environment, right? A collaborative environment. Now they have in their mind, well, this guy likes doing his research, right? I love the way he communicates, all those things. And I think that translates into, you know what, let's explore more this opportunity. And I think it kind of happened the same with us, right? It's like, we like the process, we love the energy, we want to work with people that are, kind of like, let's try it out, just
they're a match.
put up 1 foot forward. So it's interesting that question that you just asked. I feel like opened the door to a whole new possibility.
As well as part of the experience is just staying in touch.
Yes.
I think Noah from AppSumo says following up. Like, even if you don't think you're going to get, if you have a top 5 people that you want to be on the podcast, like I reached out to Nathan Chan from the Founders Podcast right at the start of the journey, and he said, follow up in a year's time and I'll think about it, but make sure to leave a review. So I left a review, checked in, and he said, follow up in another 6 months time. So I'm still following up with him. I may get him eventually, or I might just say, not for now, maybe episode 500. I'll reach out to him. But following up, I out of all the guests, I think I only had one experience where we published the episode, but I didn't feel like it was going to go anywhere else. But so out of the 60 I've done, 59 people I've followed up with and kept in touch with and built a strong relationship with. So have those reminders on your phone to check in if you can't remember when you checked in with them last. Have a system to like and intentionally like, not just like and comment, and just go, great, cool. Be thoughtful about each comment you leave. It might take you 2 minutes instead of 10 seconds, but that 2 minutes of thought will matter more than any 10-second.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I one relationship that comes to mind is the one with Damon Damon Burton,
Yeah.
right? Like this was a person that came into our podcast from one of our clients. Is like, hey, we're doing a push for a marketing. I wonder if you guys are there. We had no background information on him. We did not know who he was. He was an SEO guy, and we've stayed in touch for almost like 3 years. We met him in person a couple of times. He's also really good at the relationship side. He ended up getting us like money socks with our faces on it, which is insane. And we haven't worked together, but we've introduced people, that he can help. That he introduced people that we can help, and we just built a really cool friendship. And that's just one example of the many. I'm sure, Chris, with you're now a part of the bro family, so it's probably going to happen, right? And I think, like you said, stay in touch is so important. And I want to highlight something. I know we've talked a lot about the podcasting side, but for those listening that on the social media, I know that a lot of social media managers follow the content that we create. This can be done in every single platform, right? You can collaborate in every single platform. It doesn't have to be a podcast. Like I say, I say this a lot, but we chose podcasting because it was a way for us to put content consistently out that works for us. But if your platform is Instagram, how can you collaborate in Instagram, right?
We do Instagram lives,
right? If it's not video, if it's maybe a picture, like there's still content, things that are said behind. We just received an invite, for example, to collaborate on a blog. We don't write blogs. So what they do is like, hey, they send me a list of questions, right? And then I can record on video or I can type them, send them back to them. But then that's the initial point of that relationship. I'm like, oh, this is super cool, right? So think about this in the macro level, regardless of your platform, because the principles are there and they work. We're just big fans of podcasting because it allows to produce content consistently. So what's your channel? And then focus on that relationship. So Chris, top man. I think, this is so good. Fonzie was like,
top man.
Yeah, Fonzie's like, you're gonna like Chris. I'm like, yes, approved.
Yeah, it's a good dude. It's a cool dude. Chris, I'm just gonna throw this out there. Whenever we meet in person, we might have to make some pasta.
We can make some fettuccine or ravioli. It'll be
Say
good.
no more. We are in. Now, because we're getting here towards the end of the episode, and this was amazing. Honestly, I think there's a lot of takeaways for that person listening if they want to start a collaborative based kind of like platform show, whether that is, a podcast, Instagram Live, whatever it is. I think they have a good basis here when it comes to how to kind of like set up those collaborations, right? Like what comes before the actual event, then how to conduct those events, right? Like during the shows, and then how to transition that for exploring opportunities. Now, I'm curious, what will be your top takeaway, right? Like if you can leave somebody with one action point today, maybe let's say, because it obviously depends on where in the stage are they, but it's somebody that has been thinking, I want to do more collaborations. I want to, amplify my network and obviously increase the amount of opportunities that I might be bringing through the door through collaborations. What is one thing they can do to get started?
Yeah. Okay. So maybe it's it's a 1 and maybe it's a 2, but define who you want to collaborate with, and then create the list of those people, and then just do the simple thing: ask them.
Yes.
Because every single time I've asked, there's either been a no or a yes or a maybe next year or follow up. That's what I mentioned before. So ask, and be curious about it. Just say, out of curiosity, are you hiring at the moment? The AppSumo one, they said, no, we don't hire internationally, but we can put you in touch with the hire team. Great. That led.
Yeah.
Curious, do you sponsor podcasts? No, we don't have the budget for it. What were you thinking? Well, sponsor it for free and I'll promote this, ... You can still get a sponsorship that way.
Yeah.
Paid sponsors as well. Just ask. Be curious and ask, because there is a lot of opportunity out there. And a free opportunity might come, but then a paid opportunity will come later once you've built that trust and that relationship.
Yeah. And you actually remind me of one of the what we call hashtag golden boulder moments that we've had. I don't remember which episode was this, but it was with our good friend Gary Spurgeon. He lives here in Jacksonville, Florida. He owns his own podcasting studio, and he has been in the broadcasting world for like 40 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And one of the best tips he gave us was, when you're starting, literally go out there and look for sponsors and just tell them that they can sponsor your podcast for free, right? So he's like, go and look for, I don't know. I think the company that he used in the example was like Pepsi. He's like, go and find Pepsi and tell them, hey, I'll do 52 episodes, with your brand. Just let me know. Allow me to say that I'm sponsored by Pepsi and for free. And they're going to be like, sure, free advertisement. Absolutely. Go ahead. And what this costs is that every person that starts listening to your podcast, they're going to be like, whoa, he's sponsored by Pepsi. And now you're borrowing the authority of that brand as well. Like, imagine all the people that immediately heard your podcast for the very first time, and you're like, hey guys, welcome to the Awesome Chris Show, sponsored by AppSumo. In their minds, right, if they're in the world and they know AppSumo, they're going to be like, wow, this guy is big for having AppSumo sponsor them. So that is such a good move.
By the way, they were a paid sponsor. It was my first $75 as a podcaster was the AppSumo sponsor.
Let's go. That's awesome. That's awesome.
I love it, right? Like, you could go all the directions, and I think that's huge. That just unlocks like new possibilities for a lot of people, right? Like, at the end of the day, it's like, what's gonna elevate the platform, right? Search if you're looking for the sponsorship or like those relationships, right? At the end of the day, if a bigger brand, it might take a little bit more time, right, on that, stay in touch, or how can we add value to that specific person or brand through our show? So, there's many answers to that. We can go from having great conversations, doing the proper research, providing a great experience inside of the show, right? Yep. I remember with Todd Brown, episode 40, legend for Fonzie kept calling him Mr. Todd, right? And and I think at some point in the interview, his camera just completely went dark, right? And 40th episode, and we're like, oh boy, I think it was like 10th guest that we've ever had, something like that. And somebody else would have freaked out, and what we did was, okay, let's go to overwrite. Let's continue to talk about the things that we were chatting, and all of a sudden he comes back on, and he told us, hey guys, like my camera battery just went off, right? But at the moment he continued talking, and then he told us that after the interview, and he immediately after, he was like, by the way that you guys run this podcast is very professional. You guys, and his comments like, you guys are going to be huge, right? And we're like, oh my gosh. And that was like the comment that we needed at the time to continue, right? So it's like, okay, that was an example, a very specific example on how to provide a great experience for that guest and maintain the thing. So Chris, I think you brought a ton of golden boulders today, very actionable steps. We're going to obviously leave all the links right below.
Yeah. We have one more question before you almost forgot the most important question of all.
I was not going to say that. That was like my preface to the last question. Fonzie.
Okay.
I never miss the question.
I
Fonzie,
know. That's why I was surprised. I was like, is he going to make the question today?
He just loves to throw me under the bus. Just saying. Okay. So, Chris, where will you be if you never published?
Where would I be if I never published? Oh. That's a deep question, because at the time of podcasting, I didn't really know what I was doing, what direction I was heading in. I would be struggling and probably, I don't know. I wouldn't be where I am. Let's say that.
Yeah. It's thank you, by the way, for your honesty. Same for us. I don't know. Fonzie will be under a ditch somewhere.
Oh my god, bro, that's so dark. No. I like to think that I would be potentially thriving somewhere else, doing something else. I don't know.
What?
I don't know. Honestly,
it's probably my favorite ending question, because it shifts the mood completely.
Yeah, but the reason why we ask this question is to bring it on to the listener and put it into perspective, right? Like, we didn't plan for any of this to happen. We're like, let's just start a podcast. We took action, and then we realized, like, wow, the benefit of it's been amazing. And I understand that podcast might not be for everybody, right? But also we want to illustrate the value of putting your message out there, which at the end of the day is creating opportunities, right? Because, the person that doesn't ask, the person that doesn't put their message out there, they will not get anything in return. You need to put yourself out there. So that's why we ask it, right? Even when you say, I don't know where I would be, right? That is saying to people that if I wouldn't have put my message out into the world, I would potentially live in a world of uncertainty, right? When in reality,
I'd still be lost. I wouldn't have direction. I wouldn't have that clarity. I would still be jumping to do different jobs.
Yep.
You know, lost in what career could I do next, and what could pay this well, and you know. So, thanks to podcasting has changed my life.
that's awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Chris, it's been a pleasure, my man. Like I was saying before, Fonzie interrupted me so abruptly. We're gonna leave all the links right below for people to learn more about you. You know, go launch their shows. I think it's, you know, obviously you guys have talked in the group, so I encourage everybody to go on and continue that journey with you and with us as well. Anything else, Fonzie, you want to add?
No, I'm actually, well, I'm in my mind. I'm like, I'm excited to edit part of this interview. I feel like we have some golden boulders in here that we can share with the world, you know, and get more people interested in the podcasting world.
Yeah. Chris, anything else you want to add before we head out?
We've got the Podbean campaign launching this week.
Let's go. The crowd going crazy. Let's go. Awesome. Well, I think that's the episode.
Yeah, that's it. Chris, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate you.
With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning to Contents Profit Podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform and on social media at the BIZBROS Co.
That is Ryan Chris here, help you move one step closer towards your goal and to build a collaborative platform. Please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. See ya.
Bye, guys.